Grayson Grundhoefer, nice enough to allow us to get him on a little bit later, which we hate to do, but we needed to because we had a kind of a collision course of 2 or 3 segments all at once. Thank you for doing that, Grayson. Appreciate your time. I saw a note in the premium section. It's been in there for a while about a top 100 rated player that might be visiting Baylor. Is that correct?
Yeah, guys, this was big news this week. Now, so it's Caden Green. He's out of Lee Summit, Missouri North High School, so in the Missouri area. And Caden has been a guy that he's been, ready to visit Baylor since he got offered back at the end of December. But I finally got an official date from him. He finally got something set up right after the Bears ended their 2-week communication dead period. So he finally got a date, kind of finalized March 26th. He will be in Waco. It'll give him an opportunity to see spring practice, give him a chance to just get to know Baylor better. And, he's coming with his family, his mom, dad, his brother. This is a big one, guys. He's pretty much ranked inside the top 100 in every single site, at least in the top 150. And then composite-wise, he's inside the top 70. So, really, really big-time player, one of the top 7 offensive tackles in the entire country. If he was a recruit in the state of Texas, he would be the best offensive line prospect in the state. So just something to keep in mind there. Left tackle prospect can kind of do it all at 6'5", 310 pounds. And, you expect a lot of competition with him. But one thing I can tell you is his Christian faith, the person over player aspect of Baylor, all of that really resonates with him and his family. So this is going to be a really interesting one. He's going to take quite a few unofficial visits. LSU, Oklahoma are a couple that are going to get an unofficial visit, and then he'll narrow down the places that he's going to take official visits at after he goes on this unofficial visit process. So I think the fact that he's coming to Waco and making that priority definitely gives the Bears a shot at getting one of those 5 coveted official visit spots.
Grayson, today Baylor offered Brenden Bett from Killeen Ellison. What do you know about Brenden Bett?
Yeah, a really good player and a big athlete. 6'5", 280 pounds. I think he's still a little bit raw as a prospect, but that's good. Baylor wants guys like that, and you don't find many guys with his size. Obviously, he played at Killeen Ellison. He plays there and was teammates with Devontae Savino, who was a Baylor signee in the 2022 class. So there's a connection there. The Central Texas wall that we've been talking about, how Baylor's trying to build that wall around Central Texas, it just continues, right? They're offering guys that they feel like are offerable, but also really prioritizing those guys that are in that area. So Brenden is a really good offer. I think he's going to be one that is going to continue to grow, and his film's going to get better next year as he continues to develop. And I think it's a pretty exciting one. And Baylor got in early enough where it's just Texas Tech and Colorado and SMU, I believe, right now. So plenty of room for the Bears to go in and build a relationship with him and try to win over his recruitment. So they should be in a pretty good spot, though, obviously, with Savino, and then, of course, the connections they have in that Central Texas and Killeen area.
Grayson, it's just names on a board when strength and conditioning puts out their, weightlifters of the day and whatnot. And there's only so much you can really gather from that. But it is interesting to kind of see the names that become repetitive and continue to show up, or names that maybe you wondered if the guy was even still on the team, and all of a sudden, oh, wait, there's his name. Has there been anything of interest that's popped out to you in regards to that? Just, maybe seeing a young player who's making a little noise in the weight room.
Yeah, I'll name a couple, but I think the one that is really standing out to me right now, and it's because Baylor has to find, who's going to play guard next year, who's going to take over for Xavier Newman-Johnson. And I think the kind of belief was that Micah Mascua would be that guy, would go in, play the guard spot. But I know others have talked about, maybe Khalil Keith moves to guard and then maybe a tackle spot's open. But a guy that I've noticed on that list a ton has been Gavin Byers. And it seems like Gavin has really done a nice job trying to get his body to where it needs to be for him to have that same kind of physicality that they need in the run game. He's a very accomplished pass blocker. If you watch what he's done over the years, he can definitely pass block, but it's that run blocking, it's that nastiness, which comes from being stronger in the weight room and really putting on the gains that you need after high school to be able to really move people. And I'm really excited to see if Gavin really is putting on that strength, how that impacts his game, because I do think he's a guy that has a very high ceiling, and I think he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to compete for one of those starting spots for next year.
You know, everybody does weights. Everybody has a strength and conditioning staff and whatever, and they're pushed in the off season. It does seem as if, and I've always said that, you know, you get these strength and conditioning staffs that come and go. You know, what is the difference? Isn't it mainly just who can motivate these young men to do, or women who can to do more and more and more in the weight room?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is motivation, for sure. I think it's also, you know, it has a lot to do with really liking the guys who are teaching you and molding you into the football player that you want to be. So I think that's a part of it too, right? You want to enjoy going to the weight room. You want to enjoy being around the coaches and the strength and conditioning staff, especially because those are the guys that you're around even more so than the coaches, to be honest. So it's definitely a big role, and I think it's one where if you look at what Vic Valoria has done with his staff, it just seems like they're resonating really, really well with the athletes. They're creating an environment that is really pushing these guys and creating that motivation that you're talking about, Smokey. And I think when you have that whole environment of good relationships, good vibes, a want to get better, a want to get stronger, it creates, you know, really good rewards. And I think that's what we saw last fall, and that was in year one. So I think year two, you can expect another massive increase, especially for the offensive and defensive line guys.
We know how the quarterback situation played out last year and eventually the injury, but with both of them, Gary and of course in injury in the Big 12 championship game, with also, God, I just went blank.
Blake Shapen,
I'm sorry. But I saw some videos of them in the weight room, and Sean Bell had put out a Kyron Drones against Gary Bohannon squat. Like a competition. How much do those competitions help? Not so much you still have to throw the ball. You have to be able to stop the run, do all the things you do, but help with the leadership or gaining respect and trust from your teammates.
Yeah, I think it is an area where you can definitely gain trust and gain a sense of, like, you look at this guy and you go, that guy's working hard. And that's a guy that I want, you know, covering my back when I'm playing football. That's the guy I want on my team. And I think that's the biggest thing. You know, these guys are going in there and working their tails off. And so to see those rewards and then see them do competitions against each other and the mutual respect there, yeah, it's a big thing. And I also think it just creates an environment of competition. And that's what you want, right? You want guys that are going to compete against each other and going to, you know, try to be the best on the team. And I think all of these guys across the board, from seniors to freshmen, feel like they're the best players at their position, and you want that. You want guys that go out and try to prove that every single day. And I think that's kind of exactly what you want. And I think that's really building that culture that Dave Aranda and Vic Valoria and the strength staff is trying to build there. And it's really cool to see, honestly. These guys look like they're having a great time, and it looks like they're just really just pushing each other and trying to get better as a football team.
Grayson, big basketball game tomorrow, Kansas and Baylor. College game day is going to be there. Obviously, the first time around, the Jayhawks put it on them pretty good. And there's, of course, the race for the top of the Big 12 with just less than a handful of games to go. Your thoughts on this matchup tomorrow at the Farrell Center?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. You know, I think this is really, to me, this is all about respect for Baylor. Baylor got destroyed when they were in Lawrence. It was not competitive, not close. It looked like two different classes of teams. And so Baylor's got to go out there and really fight for that respect. Now, I don't think it's going to matter in the Big 12 standings. I think Kansas has built a little bit too big of a lead, and I don't think anyone's going to catch them. But obviously, if Baylor wants any shot at that, they have to win this game. But I think this is more about, like I said, respect and trying to get better as the season goes on. And I think this is a game that Baylor really needs for their confidence. To come back home to the Farrell Center, take on a team that really dominated you, and try to change that script and try to change the narrative on this whole season that everyone keeps talking about, you know, the injuries and everything, you know, that goes along with that. And yes, it's been a problem, but it's also like, this is still a really good team. And this is a team that still has high expectations and high hopes. Now, can they go out and get a marquee win despite the injuries, especially as the NCAA tournament, Big 12 tournament are all coming up? I'm really excited to see if Scott Drew can get these guys mentally and physically prepared for what is probably going to be a war on Saturday night.
Yeah, time to sharpen that blade with KU, then on the road against Texas Monday, and then a little bit of a break before Iowa State in the tournament. Grayson, thank you very much. Grayson and Craig, every Tuesday they do the Bearcast. It's put up in the premium section. It's also up on social media with their 2 Twitter accounts and Sic'Em365.com. We appreciate